I met someone on Friday when Or Shalom was here having its Seder, and some of us, they generously allowed and invited us to join, and some of us did. This person is a member of Or Shalom, and she's Jewish, and she told me that she had gone to an Easter service for the first time, either last year or the year before. She looked at me wide-eyed. "It's an awful story," she said. I didn't know how awful the story is. Worse maybe than Passover with its plagues and death of the firstborn, I don't know. She, of course, meant the part of the Easter story before Easter morning, the Good Friday part, the part I'd invite you to take off your bonnets for. Hold your hats. It's a story so ancient and so familiar, right? A king who wants to keep his power, who is narcissistic enough not to like this Jewish prophet gathering up followers with his woke teachings of love your neighbor and his soft on crime, weakness, preachiness about don't cast the first stone. So this king who amasses soldiers and whips up his easily whipped up crowd, the sycophants that gather when he calls them to unquestioningly second his ugly instincts, he makes the soldiers go after the man, Jesus, and deals out unnecessary and gratuitous violence and cruelty, crucifies Jesus in front of a crowd, this healer, this citizen, murdered for speaking unhaltingly of a larger vision of human decency. It wasn't pretty. I'm talking about antiquity, of course. Ancient and familiar stories endure, not because we human beings are unimaginative, but because the stories play out again and again in our world, and so we lean on ancient teachings about how to weather these moments. Good Friday is one that repeats in ways intimate and collective. And you and I, who live through Good Friday chapters, must learn, if we live long enough, how to stay whole, human, how to keep our hearts supple, not hardened like Pharaoh's in the other story we told this week, so we can live past Good Fridays and make it until Easter morning and beyond. Good Friday, of course, is the day when all hope is lost in the story. It is all the times when our heart is broken by unnecessary evil or cruelty or ignorance. Any day when our faith is ripped like the skies were rent, the story tells us, and the sun eclipsed like whatever light of truth and warmth of love and fire of commitment we carry within that can be dimmed by life's circumstances and its disappointments and its brutality. Good Friday days come. We all know them. I heard some even this week. A trusted loved one betrayed someone's trust. A child succumbs to despair. And in the larger world, we all heard the stories, lives hollowed out by war and its carnage, most of which was unnecessary to serve the ends it will achieve, or disproportionate to those ends. People who die in detention under immoral circumstances or are released blind and helpless on the Buffalo streets this week ruled murder. Children going hungry at schools to pay for an army of mercenaries unleashed on our own citizens, or bombs dropped on children in other places. The earth heaving and moaning, and protections rolled back as unnecessary, health costs bankrupting families, and all the while money is amassed by beyond what any human being among us needs or should hoard, and those who hoard it are lionized as successes and protected by our nation and its leaders, and allowed to redouble in their wealth. That's my short list. I'm sure you have your own, the list of heartbreaks that keeps you awake at night sometimes. The coronavirus, now just slightly in the rearview mirror, taught us how much we all could accomplish if we put our shared minds and our muscle to it. We kept businesses afloat. We kept this church, all of its staff, fully employed. We kept people as safe as possible and produced vaccines in record time. We know, you and I, that the list that keeps us awake at night is something we could solve or at least mitigate if we wanted to. And so all the more heartbreaking and evil its persistence. That's Good Friday material too. Which is why Good Friday isn't just a story, it's a truth we have to learn to live into and through. Easter is the other half of that story. You, I'm sure, know its challenge and its promise. On Easter, on this morning in the story, we stand, as those in the stories did, as dawn breaks at the tomb. We are empty-handed and brokenhearted because everything in the world that was most important to us has been taken from us. In the story, two of the disciples, women, I feel like I need to say that because the other disciples get a lot more press and Da Vinci paintings. So two of the disciples, women, have come to prepare the body for burial. It's this last act of love they will be able to give this person they've lost. And they find in the story that the rock that guarded the entrance to the tomb has been rolled away and the body inside is gone. And fearing first, no doubt, I imagine that the grave was robbed as another act of cruelty, or maybe by animals that got to it. We can imagine how much equally they despaired in that moment when, in the story, they see an angel, and it tells them that the unbelievable is true. That the man who was killed, this man God, has been resurrected. And not just in spirit, because they knew they would always carry his spirit with them, but resurrected in body too, that he is alive, not was alive, which is to say that hope is alive, which is to say that evil has not had the last word, will not, nor death. This is the Easter promise. And it is no small promise. And we are called to see the enduring truth in this piece of the story too, right? Well, I don't know about you, but I've been working to figure out how to stay alive to this part of the story because a lot has been breaking my heart, not just in life, but recently, especially in my country, in the world. And after wrestling with it for more than a year, I want to share 3 things that I think are relevant to being Easter people, or trying to be Easter people in a Good Friday world, that relate to this story. And I share this, and afterwards, I promise, I will release you with more singing and more music and a blessing into this gorgeous, gorgeous day. So here they are, 3 things. First, my beloveds, I think that even when we are brokenhearted in life, whenever that happens and however that happens for us and how often it happens, that part of what you and I are called to do is what the two women in the story did when they went to the tomb. I think when we have no hope, we are called to do whatever it is we can that is hopeful. If and when we can do nothing else, we are called to go through the motions of being people who have faith in the world, to act as if we believed change was possible and goodness might win. And there may be times when acting as if, maybe you know them, when acting as if can be all that we can muster the energy or the heart to do, but we do it. Think of those women, right, who thought everything was lost and who went to the tomb to engage in a final act of love and reverence to this undeserving world. We do the same, whatever going through the motions means to us. We pick up the trash on the streets we walk. We bring groceries to a sick neighbor. We fill out our ballots and we vote. We give charity to anybody who promises to protect the earth or something sacred to us. We recycle. We tell someone who's struggling that we see them. We wait in the driveway for someone worth celebrating to show up and shower them with love, and then we love anyone who shows up. You and I, we are called as Easter people, even when nothing else is possible in our lowest moments, to act as if the world is redeemable, even and especially when we doubt it. In part because if we don't, then it absolutely won't have a chance. That's the first piece of being Easter people in a Good Friday world. Second, we have to try and fall back in love with this world. If we've fallen out of love with it, fight for that. However we do that, we have to set the intentions to keep our eyes open and our hearts open, even just a little, to be watchful and searching for evidence of the world's beauty and sacrality and potential. Be like treasure hunters in this world who go out every day looking for hope and where God might exist, or surprises of the most miraculous kind, and resurrection, anywhere we can find the slightest hints of it. So maybe we read the news looking for good news and we celebrate it when we find it, because we know good news doesn't sell as many papers. We listen to the stories of other people, listening for where in their lives are examples of kindness and courage, and listen extra carefully to people who we know had rough childhoods, who had to learn courage and kindness on their own, and we find evidence of goodness and resilience in those stories. We do a street retreat with the faithful fools and the tenderloin, and we watch, as I experienced, where someone offers you fruit off their lunch plate when they see that you ate the fruit first and with relish, because they know that would make you happy to have more, and you note how they start to look out for you even before they know you. And you pay attention to nature. You wake to all the images that were part of the video we shared this morning, to the colors of sunrise, so they need not play to an empty house, as Annie Dillard called us. And you stand still when you hear the high-pitched chirp of a hummingbird until you see it dancing in the red bottleneck brush tree that's planted on an ordinary corner of your world and flourished in that patch like it was Eden. And you notice what insists on life that isn't planted, like the flower that pushes through the pavement. And you know in all of this, this miracle life force that seeps into the world, that wants nothing more than to blossom and to yield fruit and to offer its beauty and bounty up to the world with lavish hand. And you live into that truth too, because it lives in you. And you celebrate with confetti every enlightened court ruling and humane piece of legislature and all the voices that spoke and voted for them, who will not bow down to tyranny and bullies. Like the disciples who welcomed the shiny figure atop the tomb who was speaking of impossible truths, you consider the possibility of nonviolent resistance overturning brutality, as it has again and again against the odds in our world, of people sacrificing for love, of forgiveness, forgiving the unforgivable, like the man on the cross did at the end of his story, or one piece of it. You and I, we fall back in love with the world, with its sacredness and its sacred possibilities. In part, we fall back in love with the world because we make it our determined spiritual practice, especially in the hardest days and hours, to work, to stay in love with the world. So we act as if, my friends, and we fall back in love with the world. And finally, what else do we do? Well, just as Easter breaks and Good Friday is no longer allowed to be the last word, the one last thing we are called to do, you and I, Easter people in this Good Friday world, is we rebuild. All the history and accounts are that it wasn't easy after Jesus was gone, knowing he was alive somewhere, body and spirit. It must have been joyful and hopeful and powerful to know, but there were persecutions to come, and the church would lose its way and divide against itself. And the journey continues to live fully into the possibilities. But in theory, everything good and beautiful was possible now. To believe that hope is what survives eventually the heartbreak, and love wins. This is the fuel of faith that gives our lives the power to work through and past the hardest days, to make that love incarnate, to dig our hands in the ground and plant it firmly, each generation of us, living and dying with our sleeves rolled up and our hearts wagered on the biggest and most gorgeous truths there are, the ones that we put bonnets on our heads for, because they're so joyful, because celebration is absolutely the right response, and feasting and dancing and singing. We do what we can, you and I, my beloveds, to get and stay anchored in this place, this Easter place, because the story will repeat. All of it. But what the world needs, and always has and always will, is Easter people doing their Easter things. So may we fall back in love with this world, and in moments where we haven't yet gotten there, just act as if we trust in hope and possibility, have faith in resurrection. And may we, in this Good Friday world, find our way to be the Easter people it needs, doing our Eastern work, bonnets and stubborn faith and sleeves rolled up, to reconstitute the world. Happy Easter, everybody. Amen.